Good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to our Shavuot evening service and confirmation ceremony. I wish you a Shavuot Tov as we transition from Shabbat and a Hag Sameach as we welcome the holiday. I think the environment is assuring us that we're going to have a very warm experience this evening, but we're working on that because we're warm, but we're also a cool congregation. I'd like to turn your attention both to the prayer book that we will be using a little bit later during the service and to the special service booklet that you received as you entered the synagogue this evening that contains portions of the liturgy as well as the cantata that our class will be presenting to us a little bit later. So I'd like to invite you all to turn to page 3 to begin the service. On this festival of Shavuot, we recall the day at Sinai when our ancestors took upon themselves the life of Torah. Throughout all the centuries that followed, the Torah has been the treasured inheritance of Israel. Torah has been the experience and the insights, the counseling and the vision of lawgivers, prophets, and teachers who came before us. It is also the questions we ask and the answers we attain when we seek to understand God, the world, and ourselves. Please read together. God of all generations, on this day which commemorates the covenant at Sinai, renewed from generation to generation, our sons and daughters come to your synagogue to declare their commitment and voice the longings of their hearts. May they have the strength and the dedication to fulfill the pledges made on this sacred day. May the words and deeds of Torah ever be sweet to us. May we and our children and our children's children find joy and fulfillment in them, that we may ever proclaim, Ashreinu, happy are we, Matov chelkenu, how good our portion, Umanaim goraleinu, how pleasant our destiny, Uma Yafa Yerushatenu, how beautiful our heritage. Bruchim Habaim B'Shem Adonai, blessed are you who come in the name of God. We welcome the confirmation class of the year 5782, 2022.
Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, berachnuchim mibeit Adonai, el Adonai, vayar elanu Yisrocha avuti, Odul Adonai gidul, kileolam hazor, Odul Adonai gidul, kileolam hazor.
Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael. How goodly are your dwellings, O Jacob, your sanctuaries, O Israel. Here we come to think and to reflect, to meditate and to ponder.
Look back on what has been, look ahead to what lies before us, and reflect upon the meaning of our lives.
For what do we live? How should we live? What do the people in our lives mean to us, and what do we mean to them?
What do we mean to you, O God, and how much do you mean to us? What does it mean for each of us to be Jew, link and historic continuum of Israel?
Here we open our hearts and unlock our souls to you. May our confirmation worship help bring joy and peace to our hearts and strengthen us for the days and the years are to be. Amen.
Our confirmands offer a Bikurim offering on page 5 of the booklet.
On Shavuot in the days gone by, Our ancestors gratefully brought in their bikurim, the first fruit of their toil from the earth's richness, to the temple in Jerusalem as a token of their gratitude to God. On this confirmation day, we too bring our bikurim, the fruit of our spirit, the offering of our hearts, as we rejoice in the goodness of life. We bring these delicate flowers, symbols of the yearnings of our soul, fragrant with the breaths of things yet to be. These blossoms mirror the love, the dreams, and the visions of justice and peace which bloom in our hearts. As the flowers of this field give beauty and joy to the world, so may the world of our hands bring about love, comfort and light, justice and peace. I see you in the starry field. I see you in the harvest yield. In every breath, in every sound, an echo of your name is found. The blade of grass, the simple flower, bear witness to your matchless power. In wonder workings or some bush of flame, we look for God and fancy God concealed. But in earth's common things, God stands revealed. While grass and flowers, stars spell out God's name.
I'd like to invite the parents of the confirmation class to rise at your seats with the booklet open to page 6. This is a prayer that we ask you to recite in the presence of your sons and daughters as they confirm their commitment to Judaism on this day. I will begin, and then Rabbi Jenny will read the italics. I'd like to invite the fathers, if you so wish, to read with me, and then the mothers to respond with Rabbi Jenny. A wish for our children. As you continue to grow into Jewish adulthood, our hearts are filled with love, joy, and pride. This is our wish for you.
We want you to be at home in Judaism, to have a comfortable sense of belonging to the Jewish people.
We want your being Jewish to be neither a burden nor a source of shame, but an occasion for proud affirmation.
We want you to have reverence for the sanctity of life and an appreciation for goodness and beauty. May you always be sensitive to the touch of divinity, which enhances your humanity.
We want you to experience the beauty of our customs and ceremonies and to grow in the knowledge of the richness of our heritage.
We want you to appreciate that religion is concerned with all reality and that it can flourish only when the mind is open and free.
We want you to understand that Judaism welcomes all truth, whether shining from the annals of ancient revelation or reaching us through the teachers of our own time.
We want you to sense a bond of union with the state of Israel and to express that kinship in your commitment to the ongoing life of our people, wherever they may be.
We want you to learn how to love yourself, to love your neighbor, and to be concerned and responsive to the needs of the human family.
We want you to look upon your faith not only as something to be inherited, but also as a treasure to be discovered.
We want you to embrace a heritage which strengthens and enhances your lives, that you may continue to grow strong in body and in spirit in the ways of the Torah and the performance of good deeds. I'd like to invite you and the class to join together in the Shehecheyanu, the prayer of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehecheyanu v'kiyimanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. We give thanks to the Holy One of blessing for life, for strength, and for this day's joy. Amen.
Amen.
Mazel tov. We'll offer mazel tovs again later. So don't sit. Parents remain standing, and we ask the class and the rest of the congregation also to remain to stand as we turn in the prayer book to page 563 for the Baruch Hu to introduce the evening's service, page 563.
You may be seated as we remain in our larger prayer book, Sidur Kol HaNeshama, and turn to page 542 for a Shavuot reading.
Now summer's prospect, the world ripening and growing softer, the promise of harvest fulfilled. The warming sun lies before us, now the vision of Torah, the world at peace and growing gentler, the promise of goodness fulfilled. The loving heart lies open to the mind. In every generation our people has sought you, hallowed is their seeking. We too seek you with trust that your light is not hidden from those who seek you with a whole heart.
We'll turn to page 569 for Ahavat Olam, an expression of God's love through this tradition, page 569. Please rise for the declaration of the oneness of our God, Shema and Ve'ahavta, on page 571.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשיטתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשופך ובקומך, וקשרתם לעוד על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
You may be seated as we turn to page 582 to be led in a responsive reading. Page 582.
We acknowledge as true and trustworthy that there is but one universal God, and to God's service Israel stands eternally committed.
We recognize in God the power that has enabled us to triumph over defeat, persecution, and oppression.
It was God who redeemed us from Egyptian bondage and delivered us from the despotism of the pharaohs.
For God wills that we be free to use our powers in holy service and not bound in the arbitrary rule of any mortal.
Whenever human rulers usurp divine authority and exploit the people, those tyrants' hearts are hardened, their own arrogance writes their doom.
Therefore, we will never be discouraged nor dismayed when unrighteous powers rise up to destroy us.
Though enemy hosts pursue us, we shall remember how our ancestors were saved at the Sea of Reeds.
We therefore repeat the words of triumph with that which we have in their deliverance. Turn to Micha Mocha and page 585.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, מלכותך ובניך, בוקע ים לפני משה, זהיליאנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כיפת אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני קהל ישראל.
Amen. Please join with our confirmand on page 586 in the English.
Help us to lie down, dear one, our God in peace, and let us rise again, our sovereign to life. Spread over us the shelter of your peace, decree for us a worthy daily lot, and redeem us for the sake of your great name, and enfold us in the wings of your protection, for you are a redeeming guardian. Truly a sovereign, gracious, and compassionate God are you. Guard our going forth each day for life, now and always. Spread over us the shoulder of your peace. Blessed are you, compassionate one, who spreads your canopy of peace over all your people, Israel, and over Jerusalem.
Now turn to page 781 for a reading of Torah study, Torah which brings us together on Shavuot. We celebrate Torah, and we hear a reading of Torah, page 781.
Somewhere out of time, in the mystery of time, somewhere between memory and forgetfulness, dimly though, I remember how once I stood at your mountain trembling, amid the fire and the thunder, how I stood there, out of bondage, in a strange land and afraid. And you loved me, and you fed me, and I feasted on your words. And yes, I can remember how the thunder was my heart, and the fire was my soul. God, I do remember. The fire burns in me anew, and here I am once more, a witness to that timeless moment, present now in the light of your Torah. I am reborn.
We now turn back to page 591 for the proclamation of our festival led by the cantor.
וידבר משה את מועדי אדוני אל בני ישראל.
Please rise, page 593 for the Chatzi Kaddish.
Yikadal v'yikadash shmei rabbah.
Amen.
V'alma divrach yotei v'almich malchutei. B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. B'gala uv'zman kariv v'imeru.
Amen.
Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach. Le'alam u'lamei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitronam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalel v'yitalal shmei dekudasha Leila min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Damiram ve'alma ve'imeru.
We remain standing and turn to page 594 as we hear an introduction to our silent Amidah. And at this time, I invite the confirmand's teacher, Alvin Katzman, to come forward. He will open the ark, and after we hear an introduction, we'll have a few moments of individual quiet prayer, beginning on page 597 through page 612.
Standing here in Abraham's desert, affirming one God, moving in the old spaces, worn by our ancestors' embrace, standing here in Sarah's tent, laughing, new life, moving in the old spaces, renewed by our ancestors' hope, standing here in my place, listening to our voices, yearning, moving in my own spaces, translating the silence.
Continue our quiet Amidah, beginning on page 597 through 612. Dear God, protect my tongue from evil and my lips from telling lies. May I turn away from evil and do what is good in your sight. Let me be counted among those who seek peace. Let my words of prayer and my heart's meditation be seen favorably. Beloved one, my rock and my redeemer, may the one who creates harmony above make peace for us and for all Israel and for all who dwell on earth. And we say, Amen.
עושה שלום ירונם, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום ירונם, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום ירונם, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
We will remain standing for a moment as we turn to page 627 for our festival Kiddush. Which will be followed by a brief Havdalah as we move from Shabbat into just the festival of Shavuot.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri agafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol העם ורוממנו מכל לשון וקידשנו במצוותיו ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה מועטים לשמחה חגים וזמנים לששון את יום חג השבועות הזה זמן מתן תורתנו מקרא קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים ומועדי קודשך בשמחה וששון הנה חלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדיש ישראל והזמנים ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא מאורי האש ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המבדיל בין קודש לחול בינו לחושש בין יום השביעי לששת ימי המעשה בין קדושת שבת לקדושת יום טוב הבדלת ואת יום השביעי מששת ימי המעשה קידשת הבדלת וקידשת את עמך ישראל בקדושתך ברוך אתה אדוני המבדיל בין קודש לקודש ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה
Our community may now be seated as I ask our confirmands to step forward. They're going to stay up. The rest of the community will be seated as I ask them to step forward, and they will share with us their cantata, a summation of the learning that they have done in their years at religious school here. You can follow along with them in your booklet beginning on page 9.
Changing for the best, not for the worst. At least we got some rest and hopefully we learned. We got out of this mess, maybe the tables will turn. We wept in distress, hoping for normalcy's return. We stopped all doing since we couldn't be flustered, but we stayed creative and then we adjusted. We kept our heads high from the courage that we muster. This is the new normal, living with change. This is a new world now, isn't it strange? This is the new normal, living with change. With faith and love in our hearts, we must rearrange our lives. We've been taught, now we can extinguish the fire. All we needed was some hope and some hand sanitizer. We stayed strong and each kept being a fighter. So now we can grow up and move up a little higher. We still work to protect the most vulnerable. The life we once had is recoverable. We're finally out of our home, so let's be insightful. Now let's get it, and let's kick it like Michael. This is the new normal. This is the new world now. This is the new normal. come a long way to have this go to waste. We stayed hungry, and now we all want a taste. The dealer gave us another chance to not be erased, and we came out with the hand of a king in a haste. We're not gonna bust, only be on a forward thrust, learn new tricks. So we had to adjust. We gotta have faith in us and a whole lot of trust. We gotta keep growing together, and that's it. This is a new world now. Isn't it strange? This is the new normal. Living with change. With faith and love in our hearts, we must rearrange our lives. We must rearrange our lives. We come here tonight changed and challenged, but undeterred.
The last 2 years have been difficult as we dealt with a worldwide pandemic.
We are grateful to be able to stand on this bema and share our service with the people in the sanctuary and on our live stream.
A worldwide pandemic dominated the lives of everyone.
COVID-19 will be a defining memory for our generation because it has made us look inward. I think most people that went through it have drastically changed and are different people because of it.
COVID required a lot of us to reshape our relationships with those around us. COVID helped define who we are today because it is something that will always be with us.
The pandemic was a challenge, but we learned from it.
I don't really feel that the pandemic has changed me any more significantly than I would have growing up from middle to high school. I have matured, yes, but I have mostly found out more about myself and became more aware of facts that previously I barely recognized. These past 2 years have really been a journey of self-discovery, and now I ask myself the question, do we really change or just find out more about ourselves?
The pandemic made us see that we can come together and find new ways to overcome a hardship.
During this time, I really thought more about life than I ever have. I learned that not everything is guaranteed.
COVID brought on isolation, but also self-reflection, and lots of people in our generation learned more about their own identity. It gave us a unique experience to turn inward.
While COVID dominated much of the last 2 years, the changes we experienced did not seem shared by all.
Everyone dealt with the crisis in their own way. A common trait we all shared was that we were forced to sacrifice.
But sometimes it felt like we weren't all sacrificing in the same way.
I definitely feel that although we are all going through this, it's not together. It's like how some people are floating around on a piece of driftwood, and other people are partying on a yacht not having a care in the world. COVID is a ginormous worry to some people, and to others, they don't have a worry about it at all. While we may all be in the same boat, we are not in the same storm.
But those in the same boat have a responsibility to others.
Once upon a time, there were some passengers on a boat. As the boat pulled away from the dock to begin its voyage, one passenger opened his bag and took out a drill. The other passengers became alarmed as he put the drill bit against the floor under his seat and began to make a hole in the bottom of the boat. The other passengers, in fear and astonishment, pleaded with him, "Stop, what are you doing?" The man was surprised by their objections. He calmly said, "What business is it of yours? Why should you care? I'm only drilling under my own seat. I have no intention of drilling under yours." The other passengers frantically told him, "The seat might only be yours, but the water will rise up to drown us all."
We appear to be coming out of the worst of the pandemic, but we still feel the ripples it caused.
People are still hurting from the effects of the disease and the losses they suffered.
Tonight we pray that those who suffer physical and mental pain be healed in body and spirit.
Challenges have been a part of the history of the Jewish people.
Those experiences changed us as a community. Judaism has always had moments of tragedy and victory that changed the course of our history.
Abraham and Sarah left their home for an unknown future. Their faith helped them move forward.
Moses receiving the Torah at Sinai, which we are celebrating tonight, is the most important defining moment in our history.
When the temple was destroyed and we were sent away from our homeland, we rebuilt and reformed our tradition.
When tyrants tried to destroy us as people, we survived, and today we thrive.
We find a home all over the world, but we also have our home in the land of Israel.
Each time we faced a defining challenge, we rose to challenge the moment.
We made those moments in history, good and bad, into holidays to teach them in every generation. We all learn from our ancestors' experiences.
While we look back to our history, we also keep in mind that we are defining Judaism today.
The most important time in Jewish history is the present. All of the history we endured brought us to this moment and helped us rise to the current challenge.
COVID-19 was transformational for the entire world. We had to face it head on with open eyes.
Like our ancestors before us, we did not struggle alone.
Staying home in the early days of the pandemic meant cutting off our social or outside social activities, so our families were there for us all.
My family helped me in lockdown by creating a way to stay in touch. We would Zoom every Friday night for Shabbat to keep in contact.
Our family relationships had all grown stronger and closer, even as our other connections seemed further away.
My family did our basic duties. We got vaccinated when advised, quarantined when advised, wore our masks, wash our hands, social distance, etc. We kept pushing through and didn't stop working in our jobs and school. I walked about 100 miles around the neighborhood with my mom, and it was good to be outside whenever we could. I also spent a lot of time with my brother and his friends outside. I am close to my brother, even though he's still annoying.
My family helped deal with the pandemic by staying at home, doing our part. We were together a lot, but it was tough. But it was good to know that we had each other.
I know my family relationships changed a lot over the last 2 years, but in a way I don't recognize because I can't really envision what it was like before. I do know my family kept me grounded.
Because of COVID, physical engagement with my extended family was nearly non-existent during the pandemic. Although this prevented us from meeting in person, it prompted us to hold family Zoom meetings, which were more enjoyable than I anticipated because everyone really seemed to enjoy themselves. I also rarely see all my relatives in one spot, so I was able to catch up with people I hadn't seen in a long time.
Having family was central to making it through our time, but we are grateful for our synagogue community as well.
Throughout the years at Beth-El Zedek, it has been a place for us to gather, learn, and grow.
While we couldn't always be here, we stayed connected.
We are glad that Zoom kept us together last year and that this year we were able to be at religious school in person.
Most of us started our journey at consecration. We continued through our B'nai Mitzvah. Confirmation is another step and a defining moment as we stand together to declare our connection to our people.
Over the years, we learned a lot and changed. Our learning helped us define who we are.
I have changed a lot since consecration. I have more of my own beliefs instead of trying to be like other people around me. When I was younger, I thought being like others was better and would bring me closer to people. I can now confidently say I was foolish and mistaken.
Since consecration, I have changed, but not largely in my understanding of Judaism. I have learned more, but I think my viewpoints just became more defined. In my years in religious school, I have grown and developed more as a person. I have more knowledge.
While we worked hard to learn about our people, develop Hebrew skills, and connect with our rituals, it was our personal growth that was most important.
We wrestled with and expanded our understanding of God and what God meant to each of us.
My understanding of God has changed. I used to think God controlled everything and was always present everywhere. I do believe there is a God somewhere, but I've seen too much tragedy to believe that they work their powers all the time. In our early years, understanding God seemed easy. We learned to dig deeper and think about what God truly means to us personally and what our tradition can teach us. We learned our vision of God is always changing. We learned that we all think differently about God.
We learned that it is okay to question God and what we thought we knew.
God is not directive. They do not watch every move we make and judge us for it. They are not in control for good or evil. I think God could favor one side over another occasionally, but not often. God cannot control our every decision.
We play with metaphors for God.
God is like a bottle, bringing people together under the same sun and providing us with the things we need to survive.
God is in everyone. He is a bunch of small pieces that make the big puzzle.
God has no physical size, but is small because God is always with us. God is big because God is in everything.
We are thankful for all who have helped us grow along the way.
Rabbi Dennis, you have brightened our learning with wisdom and humor.
Cantor Melissa, you have been helpful and patient throughout our years of religious school. Rabbi Jenny, as you leave Beth-El Zedek, we remember how much you did to help us develop into who we are today.
George, you have guided us through our Jewish journey.
During the pandemic, we found inspiration in the world around us.
Fred Rogers of the long-running children's program Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood said, "When I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, 'Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping.'"
However, we want to do more than watch. We are compelled to be the helpers as well.
Over the pandemic, my curiosity regarding medical information grew. I have always wanted to go into the medical field, and now I realize a major reason for this is my wanting to help people. This desire to help people made me realize I also want to coach or judge gymnastics. And before, I really wasn't sure if I liked working with children, but I learned to appreciate young children and babies. And I even applied to teach them lessons this summer.
I have been inspired to do good by staying connected with my friends and family to make sure they are doing okay during the pandemic. This has been important because many people face mental health problems while in quarantine.
The canals in Venice, Italy were highly polluted. During COVID, the fact that people weren't out meant the river became cleaner and the fish were able to come back. We can learn a lot about this for the future of our environment.
The pandemic brought a variety of problems, but for a lot of people in school, it took a toll on their grades. I've been inspired to make an effort to help my friends out when I can, spending my time to aid them.
All throughout COVID, I have witnessed people suffer not only in the news and on social media, but in person too. And it's not only COVID, but the effects of COVID that have had on the economy, mental and emotional health, relationship, and closures of school. It is very saddening to see all these changes throughout the community, and I think it has made me more sympathetic and compassionate.
Our tradition teaches us of doing tikkun olam, repairing the world. The world is broken, and we seek out the broken shards from creation to bring God's divine light into focus.
O world of miracles, you are supremely broken. Your shards are painful and cutting. Your pieces are scattered across the globe, aching for wholeness. We seek justice and peace in you.
We long and love divine sparks igniting within us. We tend the embers and feed the flames, at times nearly consuming ourselves and our neighbors. We pray for, no, we demand open-heartedness and resilience.
We seek grace and peace. We pursue justice. May the fragments of our world and the brokenness of our souls be blessed, with strength, wisdom, and compassion. May we be whole again, quickly, in our days. We face the challenges, embrace the experiences, and now look to a future that we will create.
We may stumble and fall, but we won't stay down.
I'll say congratulations and thank you for sharing that communal project of your cantata of learning. I'll invite us now, we have two who will share with us a recitation of the 10 commandments of the Asara Tadibroth, the 10 utterances symbolic of receiving all of Torah this Shavuot evening. I'll invite all of us to please rise as Matthew and Sophie recite for us the 10 commandments.
Anochi Adonai Elohecha Asher Hotzeticha Me'eretz Mitzrayim mi beit avadim.
I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
Lo yeh lecha Elohim acherim al panai.
You shall have no other gods besides me.
Lo tisa et shem Adonai Elohecha leshav.
You shall not swear falsely by the name of Adonai your God.
Zachor et yom hashabbat lekadsho.
Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy.
Kabed et avicha ve'et imecha.
Honor your father and your mother.
Lo tirzach.
You shall not murder.
Lo tinaf.
You shall not commit adultery.
Lo tignov.
You shall not steal.
Lo ta'aneh v'reyacha eid shaker.
You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor.
Lo tachmod beit reyecha.
You shall not covet.
You can be seated. You may be seated. I now invite forward our valedictorian of our class, who also, you may have noticed, joins in with Bob Schneider in writing that opening song of our cantata. Sambarani, a glue of our class, always smiling, will now share his words of reflection with the class as valedictorian. Sam.
Thank you. Shalom. Welcome to all who are here in person and those watching on the live stream. I'm honored to speak as a valedictorian of the confirmation class 5782. The term valedictorian in almost all other contexts means that one person is at the top of their class. One person has the best grades, most academic achievements. While I think I'm somewhat smart, I think my sister disagrees, but while I think I am, that's not entirely what it means here. I'm speaking for everybody in my class. I'm speaking for the people I've spent nearly the last decade with. All the memories that we've created, starting from Mr. Winokur teaching us about the sanctuary, the bima I'm standing on, the seats you guys are sitting in, to Dr. Mishkin letting us run laps around the pond outside for a break, blasting the Rocky theme song, to Rabbi Pfeffer entailing us with stories of a world before iPhones, and safe to say a few of us were a little shocked that that was a period in time. All the way to this year, when we were in New York, we poked fun at Rabbi Jenny and George. We've grown closer, I think even ourselves realize. And throughout all of our years together, I think it's safe to say we've learned a few things. Jewish morals and ethics, the ability to speak freely even when our opinions differ, and the big green trucks in New York. If you know, you know. And most of all, the importance of staying together. I feel we learned that best in New York during the last few years. COVID-19 kept us apart. But throughout our confirmation process, we as a class learned that a big disconnect from each other does not exactly mean we are unable to reconnect. Now that we are able to reconnect, our theme seems most fitting today. Growth from change is the theme that we've decided on this year. The worldwide pandemic forced us to unlink from each other. Most of us didn't want to leave our houses. Very few of us knew what to do, and it felt as if we were all lost. The compromise to the lockdown was to start Zooming with each other, but many of us weren't comfortable in the format and didn't express ourselves well, so we really weren't talking to each other for almost 2 years, and we came back this year, and it was like we hadn't taken a break, a hiatus for 2 years. This past year, we found the way we were able to learn from each other in person, and we developed a real cohesion as a class. While we grew throughout this change, our change had a lot of helpers along the way. There are many people we want to thank for their help. Rabbi Dennis and Sandy Sasso, thank you for teaching us over our entire lives about how to live as Jews. Thank you to Rabbi Jenny for teaching us this year about helping us better understand what we believed and giving us an ability to express it. We wish you joy in your new venture, but you truly left a mark on us. Thank you to Cantor Melissa for all you did as we became bar and bat mitzvah and the wonderful music you bring to our services. Thank you, Mr. Katzman, for your teaching in the confirmation year and challenging us to not only develop our thoughts, but to defend them with integrity. Mr. Bob Schneider, thank you for helping with the music for our cantata and letting us write a song of our own. Thank you, George, for guiding us through our Sunday school experience and for helping us prepare for this confirmation. We would also like to have a Thank you for our Sunday school teachers for putting up with us. We can be a hard class sometimes, we understand that. We appreciate everything you have done over the years, helping us learn and to grow into young Jewish adults. Special thank you to Diane Kelly for helping us so much on the New York trip. It was like herding cattle over there. Like, it was hard to keep track of us. And last but never least, we would like to thank all of you parents. You guys raised us to be informed, kind, and caring Jews. You chauffeured us to and from Sunday school, Jewish camps, bar and bat mitzvahs, and much more. Thank you and our entire families for all you have done to make us the people we are today. Hag Sameach.
My turn to get to address these students who have made my final year here so bright. Because tonight, these 8, we saw 7 tonight, but I know one more joining with us from home. These 8 young people decided to think deeply about how we grow from the moments in our lives when we confront change, how we lean into the challenges that life throws at us, how certain moments end up defining our lives, sometimes whether we want them to or not. As they shared in their cantata a few minutes ago, COVID-19 has defined our world for much of the last 2 years. And as they themselves pointed out in class, it is far from the only defining moment that they have experienced in their small individual lives, in their communal lives, in their city lives, and in their global lives. Defining moment. When do we know it? As human beings, we constantly have new experiences. Every single one of them could have the potential to define us, to change us. So what makes a moment defining? Do we know it when it's happening, or is it only defined in retrospect? Is every moment when you realize that your life will never be the same a defining moment? Or is it only those that cause you to consider how that moment shaped you and what you do next and how you think going forward? I think often we find defining moments in retrospect as we grow from them, as we discover and identify the lessons from them, as you do, as we discover and offer them up as first fruits of our labors, and when we confront our defining challenges. Shavuot, the holiday we celebrate tonight, commemorates and celebrates 2 things. Often in today's Jewish world, we focus on the giving and receiving of Torah, which was, as stated in our cantata, a defining moment for our people. Yet for the ancient world, the primary focus of this holiday, and its very name, was Chag HaBikurim, a harvest festival for the first fruits. Each family would bring the first fruits from each of their crops as a gift to God in gratitude that those first fruits had come, that year's harvest had been defined. What I find fascinating about first fruits is that for this holiday, our ancestors brought first fruits, the first yields of the crops. Most of the time, when we read the Torah and we look at the gifts that were brought by our ancestors to the ancient temple, usually they were instructed to bring the choicest offering, the best fruit, the best animal. But here, for the Chag HaBikurim, our ancestors brought the first one. And I'll note that first does not indicate quality. It just is. It's the first one. And in fact, many of us know that the first is not necessarily the best. The first fruit might be smaller than later ones. It might be misshapen. The first grains could be drier than those that follow. But they are all life-sustaining. And so our ancestors offered them in gratitude despite possible imperfections. It's the same for us today and the same for you in your future. Even though few of us spend time farming and harvesting, often our first attempts at a new skill is a bit clumsier than the second, and all the more so clumsier than the third attempt will be. Yet when we begin a new kind of work for the first time, or when we first respond to a new experience, we can offer that first one as holy, no matter its quality. That first one defines the rest, and it defines us if we want it to. Our lessons in learning will always stem from the first attempts even if often we only recognize the fruits that we find in retrospect. The first attempt or experience allows us the opportunity to decide if we'll grow, set it aside, or try to push away something new. The first fruits of our labors set the tone. This class has often set a tone of joy and of laughter as first response. They quietly define how our work will continue to grow. Our ancestors didn't keep their first fruits, whether they were perfect or imperfect. They offered it to God so that they could keep growing. We can do this too when we face a defining challenge in our lives, big or small. We offer up the clumsiness of the first attempt or the reeling of the first reaction over to God as holy. We remind ourselves that holiness is not found in perfection. It is found in trying. It's found in growing. It's found in appreciating where we started, in digging up those pieces and those lessons from what we've experienced that sustain us as we harvest whatever it is that life has thrown at us in this season's crops. It takes work to discover your first fruits. You have to sit and reflect on what you've learned, how you've reacted, what you've accomplished. You all said different ways that you have noticed that you have grown. That reflection is sacred. That reflection is the first fruits that you've offered tonight, because those reflections give sanctity and allows us to find what has defined us. You, my 7 and 8 confirmands, are just beginning to discover the first fruits of the work that many of you began at consecration. Whether you know it or not, you have grown immensely in bodies and in your souls. I'm sure your parents will back that up. You have thought deeply about the world around you and what you want to do to affect it. You have thought about what the second and the third and the fourth time should look like. You have explored what it means to be a part of an ongoing chain of tradition. You've opened yourselves up to thinking about God and to what kind of relationship you might want with the divine. Remember that these are just the first fruits of your learning, the first fruits of the first seasons of your lives. And as you go forward, you will continue to make new discoveries. You will have new defining moments, make new first attempts. Let tonight always remind you that your first attempt is holy. Sometimes it will be easy and the fruits will be obvious. Often, though, the first try is not. And it is still holy. You are still holy. The first attempt is what sets you going, that allows you to grow. What you make of a defining moment is what will determine how it defines you. I pray that you will always look for ways to grow, to attach yourself to what sustains you. You can worry about bringing the best offering later. Tonight, as we receive Torah, the holiest thing is to bring the first of what we have. And so my confirmands, Kennedy, Matthew, Dashel, Cooper, Daniel, Sophie, Sam, Ashton, you have all shared some of yourselves. Tonight, you've offered this community the first fruits of your learning here at Beth-El Zedek. You have taught me that I know these fruits are that this Torah is left in good hands with the fruits that you have harvested and shared. You have reflected on all that you have done and learned and given the congregation the gift of your learning in your cantata. I want to say that as a community, we receive that offering and we thank you for your gift. So we will move to calling each of you to formally offer you your certificates.
Before we invite each of you to come up and receive the certificate, an additional gift on this confirmation evening, I'd like also to give thanks to Rabbi Jenny, about whom we'll have a few additional words in a few moments, to Cantor Melissa, to George Kelly, to your teacher, Alvin Katzman, and to all the people who have prepared you for this moment. Special thanks to Bob Schneider, who helped us musically and helped you with your cantata, and does so on many other occasions. Our organist, Charles Manning, had surgery recently. I spoke with him today, and he is doing very well, and he sends everybody a mazel tov. He loves confirmation, and he is sorry that he cannot be here with us tonight. And Rabbi Sandy also asks me to send her good wishes and mazel tov to all of you. I should say that this is a moment of Shehecheyanu, not only because of your being here, but because we are all here. This is the first confirmation in 3 years that we're able to hold in person. Of course, we celebrate those who join us by live stream, and we thank Shari Levine, Jackie Goldstein, and everybody who has maintained us connected over the past 2.5 years in the congregation. But it is significant that we can do this, and I am glad that we can do it as Rabbi Jenny prepares to leave us, so that she can leave with the feeling of having brought you to the moment of presenting those first fruits. And I must tell you that I was so impressed and personally touched by the cantata, by your thoughts, by your insights, by your music, by your dynamics. It was truly wonderful, and I stand here with confidence today and with pride as your rabbi that you will continue to grow into upstanding citizens and into good, learned, strong, and kind Jews. That is our wish, and that is our blessing. You will receive a certificate that attests to your accomplishments this day. There is also a book that you will be getting. I'll just show the book there. There we go. And I was particularly pleased to hear the reflections that you had about God in your cantata, because it pertains to the subject of this book. It's titled A God We Can Believe In. And Rabbi Sandy and I each have chapters in that book. Her chapter is about how we can engage children and young people in meaningful conversations about God. My chapter is entitled Lessons I Learned from My Teacher, and it is my reflection on my mentor, Rabbi Ira Eisenstein, and how my relationship with him helped me to develop love for Judaism and a better understanding and affirmation of my faith tradition, my love for Judaism. In the Jewish tradition, we value texts. The Torah is our text. But in the Jewish tradition, we value not only texts, we value text people, the people from whom we learn how to be the people that we ought to become. So your models, your text people are there, and we hope that in the years ahead, you can look back to the people on this bima who love you and who respect you. So we will call on some names. Samuel Birani, Shai Eitan, the son of Rory Goldman and Bashir Birani. Mazel tov. Daniel Friedman, Daniel Shalom, son of Jody and Michael Friedman. Cooper Harp, Tzvi, son of Cynthia and Charles Harp, very formal. Sophie Hartog, Miriam, daughter of Jenna and Derek Hartog. We are sorry that Ashton Janes cannot be with us tonight, but his certificate and his book will be delivered to him. Noach, the son of Lindsay, and Michael Yegi and Robert Janes. Kennedy Mundy, Matanya, daughter of Aaron and Brent Mundy. Matthew Parabashi, Matityahu Shimon Yitzhak, the son of Marcy and Stephen Parabashi. And Ashel Waldman, Raphael David, the son of Devona, and David Waldman. So my dear friends, parents, teachers, congregants, this is our class of 5782. Let us give them a mazel tov and a show of love. You want to sit here or you want to go back and sit there? You want to sit back here? Okay.
We'll keep looking at you.
Sit. Well, the ceremony of confirmation has always been a centerpiece of our Shavuot observance and the culmination of our religious school program here at Congregation Beth-El. As Rabbi Jenny so beautifully explained, biblically, Shavuot is the festival of the harvest, of the first fruits. Tradition later endows it with the additional meaning of being the festival of the revelation of Torah. Hag HaBikurim, the first fruits. Hag Matan Torah, the entrusting to Israel of the Torah, so that we might, from that soil, cultivate our spiritual first fruits. So it is fitting that tonight, on the festival of harvest and of revelation, we honor and we give thanks to Rabbi Jenny Greenspan, who for the past 3 years has shared with us the harvest of her first fruits in the rabbinate, teaching and pastoring and mentoring and leading many in the pathways of Torah. I want to thank Rabbi Jenny personally on behalf of our colleagues and our staff and the congregation and the board as a whole for being our partner and creating at Beth-El a house of prayer, of study, of fellowship for families and the larger community. Rabbi Jenny brought us her learning, your piety, your passion, your joy for Jewish living, and she takes with us our gratitude, our respect, and our blessing for the years ahead. I'm not finished. You can come. The Torah reading for Shavuot contains the words of the Ten Commandments. And the rabbis call attention to the fact, she knows all this, but it's good to share it. Rabbis call attention to the fact that the first word of the Ten Commandments is the divine name, Anochi. I am the eternal your God, Anochi. The last word of the Ten Commandments is Lere'echa, your neighbor. Anochi, God, Re'echa, neighbor. The echoes of Mount Sinai remind us to connect the dots between God and neighbor, between faith and deeds, between the ever-present God and our always present neighbors. So 3 years ago, I said at Rabbi Jenny's installation, I quote myself. Sometimes it's when you can't find something else, you quote yourself. The role of the rabbi is to be a mediator of the covenant that binds the generations. To be a rabbi is to stand at the fulcrum of history and destiny, of then and now, of joy and pain, of memory and of hope, of divine yearning and of human aspiration. So Rabbi Jenny, the Torah portion of the week of your installation was Ki Tavo, come here when you arrive. That's what we were reading, Ki Tavo, when you come. You arrived as an eager young rabbi, not knowing what was ahead of you. No one expected the challenges of the pandemic of the last 2.5 years. You became part of our team, a reliable, dependable leader, a healer within us. You leave seasoned beyond your years and ready now to lead your holy congregation on your own. The members of Beth Shalom congregation in Columbia, Maryland are indeed fortunate to have Rabbi Jenny Greenspan. So, Tzeitech leShalom, may you go forth in peace. May you be blessed as you go on your way. May you bring blessing to the household of Israel and to the human family. And may you and Brad be blessed with health and joys. Moadim leSimcha, we wish you, our confirmation class, all of us gathered here tonight, a joyous festival and many rich harvests and seasons of celebration. Amen. Toda Rabba. And on behalf of the congregation and from all your colleagues and friends, a little gift, piece of Beth-El for you to take with you. And Sandy and I would like to give you a copy of A God We Can Believe In, because we believe in you and all the unbelievable things that you will do as a rabbi. Thank you. So this is you. She wants to talk again.
Needed a moment to make sure to say a huge todah rabba, my thank you to this community as a whole, these confirmands and this entire congregation, picking up on the theme. As I reflect on the last 3 years since I first became a part of this Beth-El Zedek community, you can clearly see how much I've learned and grown, and I too cannot help but think about my own first fruits, the first fruits of my rabbinate. As I know, in the last 3 years, I've built on my skills as a prayer leader, a teacher, and a rabbi. I've worked with toddlers, B'nai Mitzvah students, high schoolers, adults of all ages, celebrated joys with some of you, sat with some of you through pain and through loss. You brought me into the Beth-El Zedek fold, and I was blessed to bring some of you into the Jewish fold. And so I am grateful for every connection that I have made here, to all that I have learned from this amazing community and its tireless leadership and staff. Being a part of this team has taught me so much. I am indebted to Rabbis Dennis and Sandy Sasso, to Cantor Melissa Cohen, to Sherry Lip-Levine, to George Kelly, to all of the rest of this staff. I'm not going to name everyone, keep us here all evening. To the two presidents who led our congregation at my time here, Dan Fox and Todd Maurer, and to each and every person who makes up this community. When I arrived in Indianapolis 3 years ago, I could not know how much serving this community would help me grow from a newly ordained rabbi full of book learning, but less on-the-ground learning, into someone sure of the Torah that she has received and now sure of her ability to give it. I am grateful to have been your rabbi, and I carry the Torah that I have received from you with me. I carry you with me. I offer to you the first fruits of my rabbinate. I hope that I have served you well, for I think that the true first fruits that I have received is the relationships I have grown and built and experienced with each of you. And I thank you for this opportunity to grow and to become who I am to be next. I just want to say thank you to every single person who makes up this congregation, Beth-El Zedek. I will miss you dearly. Thank you. Chag Sameach, and I'll not take up too much more time.
It is traditional when we have learned from a learned teacher, a rabbi, that we recite one of our Kaddishes to close a section. So on this occasion, we recite Kaddish de Rabbanan as a thank you, as a show of gratitude from all that we have learned from you, Rabbi. And we will recite Kaddish de Rabbanan, this version set to words by Debbie Friedman, and this will be followed by Tefillah Tadibroth, so that we may wish you blessings on your journey as you go on your way, with wishes b'hatzlacha on your journey. For our teachers and their students,
ask for peace and loving kindness, and let us say, Amen. We ask for peace and loving kindness, and let us say, find their way to every soul. May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen.
Let us rise for Aleinu and give Rabbi Jenny a standing ovation.
Aleinu l'shaveach l'adon hakol, page 121, latet gedula leyotzeh bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, vegor aleinu kekol hamonam, va'anachnu korim. ובשקלים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שנוטי שמיים ועושה ארץ ומושבי קרוב השמיים ושכינת ישראל משמיים אין עוד כן נקבל לך אדוני אלינו ותמי בבית תוזך ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
It is our custom on Shavuot and confirmation to remain standing as a congregation as we offer the Kaddish and we remember the generations before us that founded this congregation and have allowed us to stand on their shoulders. We remember loved ones for whom we mourn, those the anniversary of whose death occurred during the last week, as in loving testimony to the faith that links the generations. Those who mourn and all who remember sanctify God's name in the words of the Kaddish. Yitkadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. בעולמה דברה כראותה וימליך מלכותה, בחייכון וביום איכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומן ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דא אמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, ויעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו amen. May God, the source of peace, grant comfort to all who are bereaved, peace to Israel, and to all humanity. And let us say amen. Please be seated. It's my pleasure to invite Cindy Harp, who is with us as officer of the congregation and also as a parent of a confirmand, to extend greetings and make some announcements. I call your attention to page 23 in the booklet, where are printed the names of all the young people who were recognized during the special confirmation class breakfast. And we thank you all for your accomplishments and look forward to the second fruits and the third fruits and the fourth fruits and the ongoing fruits. You can talk.
I feel like by default that makes me the last fruit, which is fine. Shari Levine called me a few days ago and said, Rabbi Dennis wants you to make some remarks. And I said, is he okay?
Brief.
Yeah, brief remarks, yes. First of all, Mazal Tov to the confirmands and their families. Students, you did a fabulous job. I loved the first rap. I love this class, I always have. I hope you stay in touch with Beth-El and with Judaism, but most of all, I hope you stay in touch with each other's. Fellow parents, virtual high five. We did it. Thank you for continuing what was seemingly a Sisyphean task of getting everyone to Sunday school for, in some cases, 11 years. So we did it. Yay us. But I'm going to make this brief. So Shavuot and Yizkor services will be tomorrow morning at 10, both in person and live stream. Finally, on behalf of the Board of Directors, as well as my fellow officers, past and present, I would like to express appreciation and best wishes to Rabbi Jenny Greenspan. We have all loved having you here. You shared our simchas and our not-so-simchas, our life cycle events. No one else has mentioned we had this worldwide pandemic, supply chain issues, but I have to say, are you not glad you have not paid for gas in California for the past 3 years? You're welcome. You're welcome. We wish you nothing but the best and hope you keep in touch with us, and we know you will do great things in Maryland. Please give my best to the Blank family. Shabbat Shalom. Well, no, Shavuot Tov and Chag Sameach.
Thank you so much, Cindy. We're going to ask the congregation to rise, and the confirmands are going to go and stand in the aisle by their families as we sing a closing song that you can follow. And then we ask you to remain standing for the closing benediction. Beth-El, the festival song, is on page 21. יבורך ישראל, מפי-אל ומפי-אל, יבורך ישראל.
Last paragraph.
My dear confirmands, on this festival of the harvest and of revelation, may you bring the first fruits of your engagement with Torah to plant new seeds of learning and of faith that will flourish into deeds of service and of blessing for years and for generations to come. You spoke of the new normal of living with change, with faith in our hearts. We must rearrange our lives. Your parents and families, your rabbis, cantor, and teachers have every confidence, not only that you will bring the change, but that you will be the change. As you keep growing individually and together, may you make our community and the Jewish people and the world better and stronger, gentler and kinder, freer and fairer, more loving and just. As you have grown together at Beth-El Tzedek over the past decade, may you be part of Beth-El Tzedek's growth for years and for generations to come. Bruchim atem bevoachem, blessed were you when you first came to us. Bruchim atem betzeitchem, blessed are you as you go from this holy place. Go in health and in joy, go with courage of heart, with strength of mind, and with spirits at peace, to build not just a new normal, but an extraordinary new normal of infinite possibility and of abiding promise and hope. Yevarechecha Adonai veishmerecha, may God bless you and keep you. Yair Adonai panav elecha vichuneka, may God show you kindness. Isa Adonai panav elecha ve'asem lecha shalom. May God look with favor upon you and grant you a life of health, of joys, and of peace. Amen. Shavuot Tov, and Hag Sameach, and Mazel Tov to everybody. Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Make sure that you get to see Rabbi Jenny. She'll still be around for a while, and we look forward to the weeks ahead and to the years ahead. Thank you for joining us.